What is up, GOAT World? Arts and Crofts here, once again bringing you some in-depth coverage of the GOAT Format War League Season 6 playoffs. If you've been following along, you know that we are chilling here in the quarterfinals. In previous videos, we've watched 2-seed Bones Generation get the 6-0 sweep against 7-seed Nemesis, and then recently we also saw defending champions Rico Act get eliminated in a 2-wave playoff bout against the 3-seed Bomb Squad. For today's video, we're going to be going back to Masters of Odds versus Damage Step here, the 4 versus 5 seed. If you recall, we did see Damage Step get off to an early lead here in Wave 1, winning 4 out of the 6 matches compared to Masters of Oz 2. We did see one of the hottest current GOAT format duelists on a great win streak so far this season, Dueling High 101, who I believe is the only player so far this season to have achieved 3 invites to the World Championship in the fall, including a recent Patreon World Championship qualifier win. We saw them on their patented Warrior Lease defeat MMF last time out that we looked at this matchup. However, they were only accompanied by Bide here, running a pretty cool Mataza Stein-Will sort of pile. That's definitely worth checking out. But either way, both of those two players were the only ones from Masters of Oz to win their matchups in the first wave, so it's going to be up to both of them to carry on the torch here and defeat any of all of Ludi Pablioni, Bobby Buckets, Gulaz, and Rixa here. So definitely got their work cut out for them, but two pretty, solid duelists, so definitely wouldn't put it past them. So after the first wave, we are able to see what decks people were playing. As I mentioned, Dueling High Running Warrior, Matasa here out of Bide. Damage Step has a little bit of options available to them here. They do get to pick which 2 players to run out here in Wave 2. We saw Ludi and Rixa both running warrior lists of their own. Those were the 2 that they chose to run out here. So it's going to be a warrior mirror here to pick from, as well as warrior versus Mataza. So even sort of a warrior mirror, just with a little bit of a combo element here from Bide. Keeping the burn list and the Chaos Turbo list kind of, in their back pocket for later. Definitely makes sense to me. Turbo, of course, not the best matchup into warrior always. And this lockdown burn list is probably more relevant against more turbo-y, slower lists. So definitely understand Damage Step running out both of their remaining warrior players here in this Wave 2 matchup. So for the feature match, we're going to continue to watch Dueling High here. Like I said, has tons of momentum, not only just in War League so far this season, but also personally just in GOAT format overall. So definitely want to keep tabs on them throughout the rest of these playoffs. Like I said, 3 invites already to the World Championship and competing for a 4th right now in the playoffs of the GOAT Format War League. They're going to be taking on Ludi Pablione, another very, very strong warrior player. So it's going to be a good old-fashioned warrior mirror for the feature match today. Have some scouting here for both of the lists. So this is Dueling High 101, who we saw beat MMF in the previous video in this playoff matchup. Their deck is relatively standard warrior from what I can tell. They are main decking a single Zambira, which is definitely going to be nice. Get them a little bit of an edge in game 1 in this warrior mirror. They do like to run spies post-side. We saw them get brought in against Chaos Turbo. I'm not sure if they would bring in the spies post-side against warrior, but it is just a nice wall and something to maybe keep your opponent on their toes. But besides that, like I said, relatively standard warrior. Ludi Pablioni's list here, also relatively standard. They are main decking a couple Trap Dust Shoots. They have a Book of Moon in the main, which isn't always standard, but pretty solid for warrior. Out of the side, though, the one thing I did want to point out, they are running the old Green Kappa here, which is a warrior. Flip monster, target 2 spells and traps on the field and destroy those targets. So a really, really good card to catch the opponent off guard. If they're setting a bunch of back row, often not very expected from players. Not sure if it makes the cut in the warrior matchup specifically, but definitely an option because warrior does like to set a lot of back row, of course, as we can see on both of these players' lists. And the one cool thing about this, I didn't see it in Ludi's list, but I do know that Green Kappa is quite good when you're also potentially playing Morphing Jar, right? Because Morphing Jar, when the opponent knows you're playing Morphing Jar, they're often likely to set a bunch of cards, get them out of their hand before they attack an unknown set monster in order to, if the Morphing Jar gets triggered, they don't just go super negative. So Green Kappa kind of is the counter to that play, right? Because you might set a bunch of cards in your back row and then get these Green Kappa targets ready to go, right? So it's a little bit of a mind game. Like I said, I'm not sure if Ludi is playing the Morphing Jar or not, or if even the Green Kappa and or the Morphing Jar come in the Warrior Mirror. But that's a little bit of the theory of as to why Green Kappa is nice, right? It exploits a common play pattern into what a lot of people nowadays expect Warriors to be doing post side. But without further ado, let's hop into the match. Dueling High versus Ludi Pablione. As always, I have randomized the positions of these two players as to not spoil the outcome. Let's hop into it. Looks like Ludi is going to win that RPS, and they'll be going first. Really happy in these aggro mirror matches. Having the initiative is going to be really, really important. They're going to go normal summon a Kaiku, set 3 back row behind it to protect it. Kaiku, not the strongest card in the Warrior matchup. Is only an 1800 beater, which is pretty weak compared to a lot of the other cards in the Warrior list. Its effect is somewhat relevant, right? Warrior does play BLS, so banishing stuff from the grave is nice. And they also play like premature Call of the Haunted stuff. But overall, not like the most powerful card you'll ever see. So a good early choice here from Ludi, just to throw out a monster if they just need to use their normal summon. Don't put out like a really high value target. But of course, plenty of potential back row to protect it as well. And we'll see if Dueling High can respond. Let's see. We're going to go fire off a Pot of Greed. Notably, no Dust Shoot here out of Ludi. We do know that they're main decking at least 2 copies. If you don't get to play it turn 1 against Warrior, you're probably never going to. So both players might have, after this turn, a bunch of dead Dust Shoots in this deck that could really make things a little bit volatile once we get into like the classic top deck wars that Warrior mirrors are known for. Pot of Greed here for Dueling High, though, is going to be really solid. Going up a card early on, trying to negate the first turn advantage from Ludi. They're going to go summon Exiled Force, pop it back row. So a little bit of a slow tempo play here, right? You're using your whole normal summon just to remove a monster. The benefit of Exiled Force over something trying to beat over the Kaiku is that this doesn't lose to like Battle Traps, which Warrior generally mains multiple copies of. They're on the Mirror Force plus the Sakus, maybe even some Widespread Runes in the mix. So Exiled Force just getting the Kaiku out of here is going to deal with the threat pretty easily, but Dueling High won't be able to really progress their board state too much this turn because it will cost their entire normal summon. Going to follow up with a couple back row there. Not too crazy openings from either player. Dueling High did resolve that Pot of Greed, which they'll be happy about, but still plenty of Yu-Gi-Oh! Left to play here. Ludi is going to go and fire off a Blade Knight here. Cool. So yeah, if they had the option between the Blade Knight or the Kaiku, Kaiku is definitely kind of the less valuable of the 2 cards, I feel like, in this matchup. Can we set a back row to power up the Blade Knight to full strength? No, we will not. We're just going to go hit in for 16. And that will connect. All right, so Ludi off to an early lead here. Now, if Dueling High had a Battle Trap, you might not always want to use it, right? Because if the Blade Knight's just going to be stuck at 1,600 life points, you could maybe just try to summon like a Kaiku or a Ninja Grandmaster or something of your own and beat over it. So maybe you don't need to waste the Battle Trap here, quote unquote. Dueling High, do we have an out to this Blade Knight? We're going to Dust Tornado a back row, so trying to clear some things out. Hitting a Call of the Haunted, cool. So 1 back row gone. Not anything that would have stopped a potential play here, but at least it's a little bit more intel. And they're going to go MST again, so really just trying to pick away 1 for 1 at these back row. Dueling High is up a card since that Pot of Greed, so simplifying the game state definitely kind of favors them at this point. All other things equal, of course. We're going to go MST, pop a Ring of Destruction, so another back row gone. And now is it safe to go for the play? We're going to go Breaker the Magical Warrior. Are we going to pop another back row? Or do we beat over and then pop in main phase 2? No, we're just going to go ahead and kill it. We're going to go Breaker effect. Oh, no, we're going to go attack. Interesting there. All right. So yeah, doing the more greedy play here with the Breaker. Of course, they could have gone main phase 1, pop the back row, and then trade. Here, though, they're going for the pure +1. We're going to go Breaker, kill the Blade Knight, and then pop the back row in main phase 2. So, assuming this resolves as expected, Dueling High is going to be up 2 full cards here really early on. Hitting a Solemn Judgment as well. Yeah, so really, really strong opening here from Dueling High. Pot of Greed plussing, Breaker plussing. I mean, these are just GOAT format staples doing what they're built to do. And Ludi is very much backed into a corner now, down a couple cards. Just a Breaker here, staring them down with no token on it, so relatively easy to beat over. Breaker of your own. Are we just going to go tit for tat? Big Breaker, kill small Breaker, and then pop a back row? Definitely a possible play. No, we're going to play it safe here. We're going to go Breaker, pop the Solemn, and then trade them, and so when all is said and done, Ludi will just be down a card, so fighting back a little bit. Ooh, oh no, we're gonna go for big damage here. Gonna slam down that BLS. Blade Knight Hidden in the Grave was the light that they needed in Grave to pair with that Kaiku from before. And yeah, so Breaker smartly here. Yeah, I like this play from Ludi. You don't need to get greedy and beat over this Breaker and then try and pop in main phase 2. Let's just clear out the back row and make it so that I can guarantee my BLS to hit the board and go for a ton of damage here. And now we can just get hit in really big. You don't need to worry about putting the Dark Engrave too much. So we can just get in for, what is this, 6,000 damage? And out of nowhere, even though Ludi was down in cards, BLS is the great equalizer, and they are going to drop Dueling High all the way down to 400 life points, if my math is correct, and gets to pass with lethal on board. Yeah, so out of nowhere, and you can see how volatile these aggro matchups are, right? You could be down a card, right? But this isn't really a grind game. It's more a board supremacy sort of game. And so if someone has access to BLS while the other player doesn't, that is a pretty big advantage. And Ludi taking it almost all the way to the bank here. Dueling High here has Tribe Affecting Virus. Will be able to clear out the board. Discard Donzalug, Call, Warrior. Funnily enough, only Warrior on the field and a Warrior Mirror. And then we can go, do we want to go kill the Breaker and get in for 16, or do we want to trade here? We're going to do it again. Okay, so Dueling High, discarding that Zambira, which you think you might want to keep because it is quite good in the Warrior Mirror. That's definitely why it's in the main deck here. But valuing just the, like I said, board supremacy here is kind of king. Let's start applying some pressure. Dueling High is very much on the clock here because they only have 400 life points to their name. So they can't really afford to just like dilly-dally, not leave a monster on the field because they can't really afford to take a single hit. Otherwise, it's just GG. So putting the pedal to the metal here, getting in with Tribe, 1,600 points. Set a back row maybe to protect it. We are, I guess, yeah, Dueling High, when all is said and done, is still up a card technically. But Ludi going first means that they will be equal, at least on Ludi's turn, in terms of cards. And with only 400 life points to get through, definitely worth it to just go for that big Alpha Strike with the BLS and try and just find 400 points of damage somewhere between now and the end. Ring is gone, though, notably, so it will have to just be battle damage for Ludi to punch through. But plenty of time left here to see if they can do it. Gonna go Tribe. Do we just crash the Tribes? Looks like that's the play. Sure. So just trying to keep monsters. I guess one route for Ludi to win here is if you just force a top deck war, and if Dueling High misses one turn and just like draws a bunch of back row, you can just slam down a single monster and win. So keeping things simplified might favor Ludi here. The volatility is nice when you have the life points to tank a hit or two, whereas Dueling High doesn't. Dueling High here finds a DD Warrior Lady. That is a nice, safe threat. Not the strongest monster. Dueling High would just die to like a full power Blade Knight beating over it, which is a little bit scary. But it is a threat. And it'll keep the clock here on Ludi. So Dueling High fighting back slowly but surely. Ludi here going to go T-set pass. I wonder what this set monster could be. Didn't see any flips in the main deck from Ludi in the scouting. But that doesn't mean that they're not running like spies of their own, potentially. Dueling High has Kaiku here, going wide, looking to get the beatdown on as fast as possible. Attacking to the set monster. It is it's a Mystic Swordsman level 2, not the best card in the Warrior Mirror. And suddenly Dueling High really applying the pressure here. If this DD Warrior Lady can connect, they will have lethal on board, I believe. Yeah, 3,100. And yeah, Ludi invested a ton to drop Dueling High to 400, but hasn't fallen behind on board thanks to some not so great top decks, right? We had Tribe into the opponent's Tribe. We had Mystic Swordsman when we were staring down DD Warrior Lady. And Dueling High has fought all the way back here. And it's looking pretty good for them. Has to survive with these 400 life points, though. Ludi, we're going to go MST on the back row, clearing off or something. Like I said, just needs like a Blade Knight to beat over this DD Warrior Lady for game. And maybe this is going to be enough. Hitting a Saku, clearing the way. And there, yeah, right on cue. Blade Knight's going to come down. Why wouldn't we just kill the DD Warrior Lady and win the game? Oh, we're going to concede anyway. Sure. I mean, I guess that's fine. I mean, yeah, maybe it's just a replay bug or something. But either way, presumably Ludi's just going to make the right call and kill the DD Warrior Lady, I guess. And that's going to be game 1 to Ludi Papaleone here in this Warrior Mirror, taking down Dueling High. Now, very interested to see what the side deck strategies are going to be here for both players. Ludi, we know, is on that green Kappa. Does that come in? Dueling High loves the Gravekeeper Spies out of the side, at least in the Turbo matchup. Do they make the cut in Warrior? We shall see. And we will go to game 2. Dueling High gonna go set a monster, set a couple back row pass. So maybe potentially bringing in those Gravekeeper Spies here into game 2. Or maybe just setting something just to keep Ludi on the back foot. Let's see, do you keep in your Nox in the Warrior Mirror? Probably not, but maybe. Now we're going to go set a couple back row. No normal summon being used here. That screams Torrential Tribute to me, which is pretty common in the Warrior Mirror, so Dueling High might want to play around that if that is an option. Gonna go ahead here. Oh, so we have the Kinetic Soldier coming out of the side here for Dueling High. Really nice card, of course, the anti-warrior card of the format. Just a nice, safe way to start getting some beatdown on. But Ludi has the Sakuretsu armor just to deal with it nice and easily. And so that's one pretty key side deck card already dealt with. Of course, it might not be the last we see of that in a deck that runs Premature Burial, and Call of the Hunted. But Ludi's probably pretty happy that they were able to relatively easily deal with at least the first life of the Kinetic Soldier without having to like lose a monster or take a bunch of damage. Dueling High, not going to use their normal summon here, just going to set a back row pass. Ooh, and we've got the Jingzhen Hu here out of Ludi Pablione, going to attempt to hit 2 of these back row, hitting the two non-new sets. Dueling High could just chain something here. Yeah, we're going to chain the Call of the Haunted, bring back that Kinetic Soldier. Speak of the devil, Kinetic's second life is here, ready to go. And the Jing will resolve, I guess, at least negating the middle one, but could have guaranteed one to negate or, shut off if they just used the new set. So interesting choice there, but at least they're getting some value. Ludi here has Kaiku. That is a not warrior monster, so a good way to get over this Kinetic Soldier. Only one real back row to deal with at this point in time, so seems fine. Gonna go attack in for a bit. Once again, dealing with that Kinetic Soldier. We'll get a third life thanks to Premature Burial. Unlikely, but definitely possible here. Not a great option for Dueling High, of course, though, staring down this Kaiku. Dueling High has Exiled Force, so second game in a row, we're going to go Exiled Force, answer a Kaiku. And we're going to set another back row pass. And once again, a very tempo negative play there. But sometimes you just have to answer the threat, of course. You got Dust Tornado here in the draw phase to deal with that Jing unlocking the middle back row. So Dueling High definitely prioritizing whatever this might be. See, now that Ludi is staring down 2 real back row, let's see how they play this one out. It has to be careful. Firing off Pot of Greed is a good start. Dueling High is going to Solemn that. Okay, so nice play there from Dueling High. Freed up the Solemn thanks to that Dust Tornado. And then is going to use it here on the Pot of Greed to try and keep things at parity. I guess Ludi's actually kind of up a card here, right? Yeah, just from the Kaiku beating over the Kinetic Soldier. So Dueling High really not wanting to go. Usually if you're down like a card, that's kind of fine. You can fight back from that. It's not the end of the world. Going down 2 or more cards is where things start to get really dicey. So Dueling High saying, let's stop let's no longer keep digging this hole. Let's just Solemn the Pot of Greed and, limit the deficit. This is going to cost them 3775 life points, which is a funny total. Don't see that every day. Shout out to Kinetic Soldier for having 1350 attack, making the math funny. But that is going to be a lot of life invested to prevent the plus here from Ludi. And if they have a follow-up like monster to attack with, Dueling High could be in a lot of trouble very quickly. Although maybe Dueling High, you're probably more likely to be okay with this Solemn if you have like a Battle Trap or something to protect your life points. So maybe that's the idea here. Ludi's going to go Berserk Gorilla, a nice card in the Warrior Mirror. Just a big old beater that trades or beats a lot of Warrior cards, and it's not a Warrior itself like Zambira is, so it doesn't lose to the Kinetic Soldier. So a little bit of a counter side here, right? Dueling High is on the Kinetics, Ludi's on the Berserk Gorillas, and that is going to trade favorably if that interaction ever comes up. But Dueling High does have the Torrential here. So yeah, as expected, okay, investing the Solemn Judgment and almost 4,000 life points into negating the Pot of Greed. when you have something to protect you from any sort of threat from Ludi. It's going to be this Torrential Tribute that is going to trade with the Berserk Gorilla, so we're not going to see the Gorilla hit in for any damage, unless Ludi has the Premature Burial unlock here, which they do, so we're going to Prima. I guess you have the option of the Kaiku as well. Kaiku is not a 2-turn clock, though. It's barely not a 2-turn clock. But maybe, I mean, Call of the Haunted's already gone. Kaiku doesn't really care too much about either of those monsters. Like, yeah, the Exiled could be annoying, but I feel like you just have to go for the 2-turn clock here with the Berserk Gorilla. And that's what we're going to see, yeah. So Berserk Gorilla hitting the field, 2,000 points of damage straight to the dome here for Ludi once again. And the Berserk Gorilla will represent lethal on board. Passing here, Dueling High has invested a Solemn Judgment and a Torrential Tribute that turn, but still ended up taking 2,000 damage to the face. And they are quite behind. And we have a very, very similar... Well, I guess it's a similar game state to last time, where near top deck scenario, Ludi was up a bunch of life, and Dueling High had to kind of put the pedal to the metal to fight back before Ludi could just find the last points of damage, which eventually they did. Here it's a little bit worse for Dueling High, though. They're down a bunch of life, staring down lethal, and they're not actually up a card anymore like they were last game, so definitely back up against the wall here. Fighting for potentially their playoff life here, one of 2 players still remaining on Masters of Oz going into this wave of the quarterfinal. We do have the Premature Burial coming through here, so forced to go for this Exiled Force, right? If this was a warrior, Prima on the Kinetic Soldier would be really, really strong. But I think Masters of Oz prepping well for, we know that damage damage step prepping pretty well here. I think we know that there are a lot of warrior players on Masters of Oz, so this Berserk Gorilla really helps them dodge a lot of stuff here. Not only is it just a good beater for the warrior matchup, it also dodges these Kinetic Soldiers, and it's going to make this play really awkward once again for Dueling High. We have to force a Premature out on this Exiled Force so they won't have a threat to stick on the board. They do have the Kaiku, though, okay, so at least they had a special summon available to bring back the Exiled this time. Able to stick a Kaiku, they can banish some stuff out of Grave as well, which is nice. Oh, sorry. Oh, no, we're just going to go for the Kaiku, sure. Yep. And once again, very, very similar game state to last game. Dueling High down a bunch of life, but is the one with an actual threat that was stuck on the board. So race against time here. Will they be able to push through enough damage before Pableone can force through the last couple points that they need? Ludi here has the Zombira coming through, so not only do we have the Berserk Gorillas coming out of the side, we got Zombiras here as well. Now that the coast is clear of at least this Kinetic Soldier, of course there could be multiple in the list, going to bring down the Zombira and really just take control of the board here. Hit in for 300. This won't be lethal, and it won't represent lethal later on, right, because Zombira can't attack directly. But you have dealt with this Kaiku. You have board control. You can protect your own life points with the Zombira as well. So not a bad time for the big beater to come down. Back row protected here. Still, obviously, of course, Dueling High not under immediate threat of losing, but needs to start making some progress. Also notably, unlike last game, Ludi does have Ring of Destruction still left in their deck, so they don't have to just win on battle damage. They could just ring for game at some point. Dueling High has Zombira of their own and is the second one to hit the field, therefore it is a little bit stronger. Will this connect? It will, so Ludi going to take 200 points of damage, not the end of the world, but their Zombira does get answered. And suddenly Dueling High not only has board control, but also has a nice big wall protecting their 675 remaining life points. Ludi here, once again, top deck Blade Knight would be pretty nice. Does kill the Zombira. We're going to go Smashing Ground, another really good answer to that card. That is kind of what you bring these in for, what they're in the side deck to deal with. No monster follow-up here, though. Could have Dead Chaos in hand, no Lightning Grave. Could maybe have like a Snatch Seal in hand that they don't want to use. So Dueling High does need to tread a little bit carefully here. It's a little bit scary when we're this late into the game and Warrior isn't playing their cards. It means that they must be holding onto something pretty powerful. Dueling High is going to fire off Blade Knight here. Full 2,000 attack points representing a 3-turn clock. It does just lose to Snatch Steal though, but setting a back row maybe to dissuade that line of play. Ludi here does have the Snatch. Taking it, attack for game. And there it is, yeah. I think that, yeah. I mean, of course, if you're Dueling High, I feel like you kind of have to play the Blade Knight there anyway. It was very likely Ludi had that Snatch Seal. But what are you going to do? Just not play a monster when you're at 675 life points? That's all she wrote sometimes. Back row is just a Ring of Destruction. Yeah, unfortunate. Not able to, deal with the Blade Knight there. And that's actually just going to be a 2-0 here for Ludi Paglione in this Warrior Mirror. Seems like they just outmaneuvered a little bit here post side. Had that Xingjian Hu that they got some value from. Had the Berserk Gorilla to really dodge the sort of kinetic soldier stuff that Dueling High was on. Even had the Zambira as well. So it seems like Paglione was very, very prepped for this potential Warrior matchup and able to utilize all of those tools to great effect. So this is one of the Master of Oz's 2 remaining players hitting the L column, and we have the results here of this wave in total. And it is going to be Damage Step taking it down. Dueling High, as we just saw, losing to Ludi. Rixa, the other warrior player on Damage Step, able to defeat Bide's Mataza combo pile. And that is going to be it here for Masters of Oz. Great season from them. Overall, 4 seed, got the bye into the playoffs. Unable to do it here against Damage Step, and I think we have our first upset here of the quarterfinals with the 5 seed beating the 4 seed. So as always, let's update the playoff standings in real time. Or sorry, whoa, silly me. So used to having the higher seed win. But there we go. Damage Step. It's moving on to the semifinals to play against the winner of Bug Catchers versus Bads, who we will be doing coverage of starting in the very next video. We already saw, I believe, Bug Catchers was up to a pretty solid start in that one, but Bads is clinging on for their playoff lives. Winner of that will go face against Damage Step here in the semis, so definitely tune in. Don't want to miss that one either as we continue to figure out who's going to take down the crown here in the GOAT Format War League Season 6. Let me know what you think about this quarterfinal matchup that we just saw conclude, about these players, about the Warrior Mirror, all that good stuff. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will catch you all next time.